Sarah, a vibrant woman in her early 20s, found herself increasingly curious about her body. She enjoyed sex and felt a sense of freedom and pleasure when exploring her sexuality. However, she also noticed a gap between her own experiences and the way female sexuality was often portrayed in society. Sarah felt empowered by her own body, but she also sensed the weight of cultural expectations and unspoken rules surrounding female pleasure. This sparked a desire in her to understand herself better, to delve deeper into the intricacies of her anatomy and reclaim the narrative of her own sexuality. Sarah's journey is not unique. Many women find themselves on a similar path of self-discovery, navigating a complex landscape of societal expectations and personal desires. This exploration often begins with a simple curiosity about our bodies, a desire to understand the mechanics of pleasure and the depths of our own sensuality. Yet, this journey is rarely straightforward. It is often colored by cultural narratives, historical baggage, and societal expectations that can cloud our understanding and make us question our own experiences. From a young age, girls are often bombarded with messages about their bodies that emphasize modesty, passivity, and a sense of shame surrounding their sexuality. These messages can be subtle, embedded in the way we talk about sex, or the lack of comprehensive sex education in schools. They can also be overt, perpetuated by media representations that often portray female sexuality through a male lens, focusing on appearance and desirability rather than genuine pleasure and agency. This cultural conditioning can have a profound impact on how women perceive their bodies and their sexuality. It can lead to feelings of shame, guilt, and inadequacy, making it difficult to embrace our desires and advocate for our own pleasure. The language we use to talk about female genitalia is often shrouded in euphemisms and negativity, further perpetuating a sense of shame and discomfort. This lack of open, honest dialogue about female sexuality creates a breeding ground for misinformation and perpetuates harmful stereotypes. To understand the roots of these cultural perceptions, it's essential to delve into the historical misconceptions that have shaped our understanding of female sexuality. For centuries, female genitalia has been shrouded in mystery and misinformation. Medieval medical texts often depicted the female reproductive system as an inverted version of the male anatomy, with the clitoris being completely absent or minimized. These anatomical inaccuracies were often intertwined with religious and cultural beliefs that viewed women's sexuality as dangerous, sinful, or purely for procreation. The idea of female pleasure, particularly clitoral stimulation, was often ignored or actively suppressed. This historical context continues to cast a long shadow on how we view female sexuality today, perpetuating a sense of shame and ignorance surrounding the clitoris and its role in female pleasure. It's crucial to recognize that these cultural interpretations lack any biological basis. The female reproductive system, including the clitoris, is a marvel of complexity and sensitivity, designed for both reproduction and pleasure. The clitoris in particular is an organ solely dedicated to pleasure, with more nerve endings than any other part of the human body. Scientific understanding of female sexuality has advanced significantly in recent decades, debunking many of the myths and misconceptions that have persisted for centuries. We now know that the clitoris is not a small, insignificant structure as previously believed, but rather a complex organ with internal extensions that extend far beyond the visible glands. This knowledge challenges the historical view of female sexuality as passive or secondary to male pleasure, highlighting the clitoris as a central source of female sexual experience. Section 5. The clitoris, center of pleasure, not shame. Understanding the clitoris and its central role in female pleasure is essential for reclaiming our sexuality and embracing our bodies fully. The clitoris is not something to be ashamed of or hidden away. It is a source of immense pleasure and a testament to the power of female sexuality. By learning about our bodies, we can begin to dismantle the shame and misinformation that have surrounded female sexuality for far too long. This knowledge is empowering. It allows us to understand our own desires, communicate our needs to our partners, and advocate for our own pleasure. It also challenges the societal norms that often prioritize male pleasure over female pleasure, encouraging a more equitable and fulfilling sexual experience for all genders. Section 6. Embracing our bodies, reclaiming our power. Embracing our bodies and our sexuality is a radical act of self-love and acceptance. It requires us to challenge the societal norms and cultural expectations that tell us to be ashamed of our desires and hide our bodies. It means rejecting the idea that female sexuality is something to be controlled, suppressed, or exploited. This process of reclaiming our sexuality is not always easy. It requires us to confront our own internalized shame, challenge the messages we've received throughout our lives, and redefine what pleasure means for us on our own terms. It's a journey of self-discovery, one that involves unlearning harmful narratives and embracing the fullness of our desires. Section 7. The impact of shame and silence. The shame and silence surrounding female sexuality have real-world consequences. They contribute to a lack of comprehensive sex education, leaving many people ill-equipped to navigate their own sexuality and relationships. This lack of knowledge can lead to misunderstandings, unrealistic expectations, and even sexual dysfunction. Furthermore, the stigma surrounding female pleasure can make it difficult for women to seek help when they need it. Many women suffer in silence with sexual pain or discomfort, afraid to discuss these issues with their partners or healthcare providers. This silence only perpetuates the cycle of shame and misinformation, preventing women from accessing the care and support they deserve. Section 8. Breaking free from societal constraints. Breaking free from these societal constraints requires a collective effort. It involves challenging the media representations that objectify and sexualize women's bodies while simultaneously silencing their voices and experiences. It means demanding better sex education that is inclusive, accurate, and empowers individuals of all genders to make informed decisions about their sexual health and well-being. It also requires us to create safe spaces for open and honest conversations about sex and sexuality. We need to normalize discussions about female pleasure, demystify the clitoris, and encourage women to explore their bodies without shame or judgment. Section 9. Education and empowerment. Tools for liberation. Education is a powerful tool for liberation. By arming ourselves with knowledge about our bodies, we can begin to dismantle the myths and misconceptions that have held us back for far too long. This includes understanding the anatomy of the clitoris, the different types of female orgasm, and the importance of communication and consent in sexual relationships. Empowerment also comes from connecting with other women, sharing our experiences, and supporting each other on our journeys of self-discovery. When we break the silence and shame surrounding female sexuality, we create a powerful force for change, challenging the status quo and paving the way for a more equitable and pleasurable future. Section 10. A future of sexual liberation and body positivity. Imagine a world where women are no longer ashamed of their bodies or their desires, a world where female pleasure is celebrated, not stigmatized, a world where comprehensive sex education empowers individuals of all genders to make informed decisions about their sexual health and well-being. This is the future we must strive for, a future where women are free to explore their sexuality on their own terms, without fear of judgment or shame. A future where our bodies are celebrated for their strength, beauty, and capacity for pleasure. This is a future worth fighting for, a future where all individuals are empowered to embrace the fullness of their sexuality and live their lives with authenticity and joy.